Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Welcome back to another exciting season of Formula One. Well, at least as exciting as watching Red Bull dominate everything could be. And in today's video, we're tackling the biggest question on every Formula One fan's mind. Can Fernando Alonso win the 2023 championship? With the first race of the season behind us, we're diving deep into the data to analyze Fernando's performance and see if he has what it takes to clinch the championship trophy. So buckle up and get ready for an adrenaline-fueled ride through the twists and turns of this epic F1 season. Aston Martin's quickest lap time was nearly 2.4 seconds quicker than in 2022, putting them in second position behind Red Bull. This was the largest improvement in one-lap speed of any team. Nevertheless, it wasn't their one-lap pace that was so outstanding. Their pace throughout the course of a race, particularly on the harder tires, was exceptional, and they were the only team that could keep up with the dominant Red Bulls. The graph during the competition, according to statistics, Aston Martin has been winning in the middle speed corners, indicating that Aston Martin has a significant amount of downforce. Alonso raved to his crew about how enjoyable the R23 is to drive. In his own words, Fernando was driving at level 7, which is why he slowed down. What many of you may not have known is that Aston Martin brought 16 distinct modifications to the first race compared to Ferrari's 3 and Mercedes' 6 modifications. Also, in the previous week, the price of an Aston Martin share has increased by 35%. Lawrence Stroll had 2 reasons to grin after the first race, since Red Bull is coming next. When Verstappen and Perez cruised towards the finish line, it was clear that they were the 2 fastest drivers on the track. All this may be summed up by what Russell said after the race had finished. Red Bull will win this year's championship. I don't think anybody can fight with them this year. I expect them to win every single race. Whether Russell is correct, we will find out in a little more than 8 months. What do you think? Tell us in the comments. But in the meanwhile, I'd like to highlight a huge victory last weekend. None other than Williams, this historic squad that has been struggling ever since 2017. There were glimmers of hope last year. And this year we have 2 confident drivers. Both Albon and Sargent improved their qualifying times to race times, demonstrating that Williams has been excellent with tire management in the latter phases of the race and allowing both drivers to contend for a midfield position and perhaps score a point. While Albon faced competition from Tsunoda, but Yuki never stood a chance against the Williams' impressive straight-line speed. The British squad can now breathe a sigh of relief now that they are back on the winning track. They're on the right track. As the last team entering competition in 2022, they'll have the most wind tunnel time available. The squad that just won for us is one that I have on both my winner and loser lists. Ocon qualified 9th for Alpine, while Gasly was last in 20th. Nevertheless, the race took an unexpected turn, with Gasly crossing the finish line 9th and Ocon failing to cross the line due to penalties. The good news for Alpine is that Gasly demonstrated a speed that was 4th quickest. According to F1 Data Analytics' graph, all of the drivers' lap times are plotted here. As expected, Verstappen finished first, followed by Perez and Alonso, but the 4th fastest time belonged to Gasly. The fact that he had to start at the very back of the pack meant that he lost valuable time during the race, which ultimately resulted in his finishing in last place. And now, let's talk about the biggest winner of the Bahrain Grand Prix. In my opinion, Fernando Alonso. The first race of the 2023 season saw Fernando Alonso finish in 3rd place, despite being the oldest driver on the grid at 41 years old. This is an impressive feat considering the stiff competition and the fact that he is still getting used to his new team and car. But the question remains, does Fernando Alonso have the potential to win the championship this year? While his performance in the first race is certainly promising, it's important to consider the long season ahead and the many challenges that come with it. Other drivers will undoubtedly step up their game, and unforeseen circumstances, such as car failures and accidents, could derail even the best drivers' championship aspirations. Additionally, while Aston Martin's car is currently performing well, it remains to be seen if it will maintain that level of performance throughout the season. The competition in Formula One is fierce, and small changes in technology or team dynamics can have a significant impact on a driver's chances of winning. With that being said, only time will tell if he can maintain his momentum and rise to the top of the Formula One ranks once again. Moving on to the losers, I was profoundly dissatisfied with 3 teams. The first is, of course, Ferrari. Ferrari, one of the most storied teams in Formula One history, had a disappointing start to the 2023 season, in contrast to the impressive performance of Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin. Ferrari struggled with both pace and reliability issues. During the first race of the season, Ferrari's overall race pace was slow, and they experienced significant issues with the reliability of their cars. Leclerc, Ferrari's star driver, was forced to stop mid-race when his car's engine unexpectedly shut down. This is a major setback for Ferrari, as engine failure can be a major factor in the outcome of a race, and of an entire season as well, if history repeats itself, and the team continues with its old habits. Ferrari has a long history of success in Formula One, with 16 Constructors' Championships and 15 Drivers' Championships to their name. However, in recent years, the team has struggled to maintain its dominance, and this latest setback is just another indication that they have a lot of work to do to return to the top of the sport. Also, it's important to not forget that F1 teams are only allowed 2 energy store components per season per driver, so it is possible that Leclerc will have to serve a grid penalty in the second race of the season. Towards the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz was asked to push harder to keep Hamilton behind him. And this was his response: "If I push more, I might not make it to the end." With that, let's move on to the next loser, Mercedes. Mercedes' hopes of catching up to Red Bull this season were dashed. These are not my words. Rather, they are the words of Mercedes' Russell and Toto Wolff, who, despite Hamilton's continued optimism, have admitted that the gap between them and Red Bull has tripled over the winter due to a lack of direction regarding how to further improve their car and, more importantly, what direction to take. Another big loser in Bahrain was McLaren, which ultimately finished 8th. After last year's drama with Ricciardo and Piastri, it's clear that McLaren has bigger problems than just its drivers. The McLaren is notoriously unreliable, in part because of the design rather than the Mercedes engine, and also because it has too much drag, making it slow on the straights and leading to excessive tire wear and overheating. Of the McLaren, Oscar Piastri had to retire early, and Norris had to come in 5 times to put air in his car to prevent further issues. Both are very talented drivers behind the wheel of such an iconic car brand. It is a shame that they have so many hurdles to overcome so early in the season. Finally, Alpine and Ocon. I mean, what were they doing? The problem began with an infringement during the starting procedure, during which Ocon stood not within his designated starting position. Ocon received a 5-second time penalty at the start, which he hoped to make up for by driving more quickly in the pit lane. Unfortunately, while replacing the front wing, one of the engineers accidentally touched the car, earning him a 10-second penalty. Aside from the penalties, Alpine did show to have built a car that should be ahead of the midfield, and perhaps, with upgrades, should sometimes challenge the top 4. This was my recap of the first race of the 2023 season, the Bahrain Grand Prix. If you'd like more of these analyses after the race, let me know in the comments section below, and I'll see you in the next video.